Hey everyone, welcome to 1,000 Words, Stories on the Way. My name is Matthew Clark, and this week is a special Cofferstowe episode. It'll be a little different from the normal format because this week I'm excited to share with you the first half of the talk that Christa Wells gave at the last Cofferstowe back in 2016. And if you're not aware of Christa Wells, I would really encourage you to go look into her work. She's a brilliant singer-songwriter, and she's one of the most compassionate and wise women that I know. And she pours so much of her energy into encouraging other artists in their craft, including me. The craft of learning to be real human beings, and the craft of serving from a core of faith and hope and love in whatever you do, whether it's songwriting or otherwise. I first met Christa maybe 5 years ago at a music festival, and her kindness and willingness to just be really present with people. I learned that was kind of the soil out of which her songs grow, and she's been writing more poetry lately, so her poetry too. So back in 2016, when I decided to create a weekend retreat centered around encouraging people in their creative calling, inviting Christa to come speak was just obvious. I knew that if I invited her, I would not have to worry for a second whether she would take good care of the guests who showed up for Cofferstowe. And that ended up being really true, of course. So all that to say, you need to know about Christa Wells. She is a beautiful soul. So this week and next, I'm sharing the talk that she gave at Cofferstowe 2016. I split it into two parts simply to keep a little closer to this podcast's typical length, but it is a little longer, about 20 minutes, but it's worth the time to listen. So I hope you'll sit and give it a listen. Also, instead of posting the essay text on the podcast website, go visit the website. I'm going to post links to Christa's music and things like that. I wanted to share these talks from the last Cofferstowe too because I hope that it'll give you a feel for what is coming this June at Cofferstowe 2019. In April, I'll share the talk that I gave last time, and then in May, I'll share Andy Gullahorn's talk. Right now, registration is open at Cofferstowe.com, so if you like this talk, go grab a ticket and come be our guest this June 14th through 17th in Cincinnati for Cofferstowe 2019. So now, with a special thanks to Christa Wells, here's part one of her Cofferstowe 2016 talk, Imagination, Seeing the Far Side of the Mountain.
This is a disclaimer coming from a quote from Einstein, which I love, and it is that imagination is better than knowledge, because knowledge is limitless and imagination encircles the world. And the reason I love this is because I'm not a knowledgeable person. I'm just going to tell you that right. I'm terrible at Trivial Pursuit. I cannot remember my own children's birth dates or the names of historical figures. I don't know the presidents of the United States or the capitals of our states. And so what I bring here is just approximately 40 years of an active imagination. And I'm pretty sure I'm in great company with a lot of you. So I am not here to teach you. I really see myself as an encourager. I want, and I know this is the heart of Matthew when he thought of this retreat, is for you all to leave believing that you were imagined in the first place by a loving God, and that He created you to create, and that you're capable of that, and that you have something important to contribute. So I've started meeting once in a while with an older woman who's like a spiritual mentor for me, and this is something helpful she's done for me. So with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine whatever comes to mind when I say the word mountain. whatever is in front of you right now. In some senses, for us all, it's our entire observable universe. It's our understanding of God. It's just everything we see and sense around us. But right now, when you came on Friday, you probably have something specific in your immediate universe that feels like a block, or it feels like it needs managed or fixed. It's something maybe that makes you feel a bit anxious, uncertain, fearful. Might be something that's entirely too big to climb and you know it, and it's just sitting there staring you in the face. Or it might be a bunch of things. Maybe you're multitasking so much that you have 8 different things that don't all fit in your hands. Or you feel like someone keeps sticking one more card in your hand and you can't keep them in the hand anymore, and you keep losing one or the other. Maybe something needs unlocked, you can't find the right key. So now that you have that in front of you, I want you to imagine that you temporarily have the power to shrink it down to the size of something you could carry, maybe a watermelon. Maybe it's something that fits in your hand, and you don't have to worry. You're not being neglectful. It's still going to be there, but you're just making it small for the moment, and then you're going to put it into a waterproof basket. And now imagine that you're surrounded by or near some kind of water, whatever kind of water you like, ocean, lake, creek bed. And I just want you to walk up to the water's edge and set the basket afloat. And if you're a highly responsible person, that might make you feel really nervous, setting it in there like it's going to drift away and you'll never do what you need to do. But that's not the case. It's just being held there on top of the water. And you can feel safe and secure that it's held there. You can let it go for a few minutes. Turn away from it and walk away from the water. It's just going to stay there for now. Okay? You can take a minute and then open your eyes when you're in that place. Last night at our table, we were asking, I think it was last night or maybe it was this morning, we were trying to be good students and good campers and do the questions on our table. And someone asked, what was your favorite childhood toy? And I honestly had trouble thinking of any toys because I don't think I actually played with toys that much. I remember an adopt-a doll my mom made for me that was special, and stuffed animals, a lot of stuffed animals. I collected lions. Aslan was an inspiration, and so I had about 15 stuffed lions. But other than that, I had 3 siblings, and we were in the military. We traveled a lot. My parents wanted to show us the world even when we weren't moving. And so we would get in our big, full-size van with the stick shift, and we would drive places, and we couldn't afford hotels, so we would camp, which I am in awe now of my parents for, because we would literally pick a KOA every night, set up, tear down, and they would make all the food. There was no McDonald's stopping or anything else. It was all out of a cooler. But so my siblings and I were really creative. Our parents were not artists, but we would make up games in the car like, you close your eyes and I'm going to paint a picture. I'm going to describe it in as much detail as I can, and you put it in the canvas of your mind. We would do really weird things like pretend our thighs were cookie dough, and like I would make cookies on my sister's thigh, and I can't explain that one or find any real merit in it, but we would fall asleep. We always shared bedrooms, so we'd fall asleep pretending sometimes that our minds had television in it. And so my sister Reagan would go, "Oh, what channel are you on?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm channel 13. It's an awesome show. Mom would never let us watch it, but And then, "Oh, I'm going to change to that." And we would just do that until she pretended to fall asleep, which would freak me out because I did not like to be the last one awake. And then magic. I would lay in bed. There was a stuffed bunny, I remember, on top of this tall bookshelf. For a long time, I was praying. I think I had read about faith the size of a mustard seed. I would look at this bunny rabbit on the top shelf and say, "Please make me magic. Make me magic. I have faith. I have faith the size of a mustard seed. I know it. If I'm magic, let that bunny rabbit float down to me right now." And night after night, I would be disappointed because it wouldn't ever happen. But that's the space I lived in. Most of the time I was in my head, and I would wear, my brother's older friend would come over, and I would want to wear this white slip that was supposed to go under my church dress. It didn't seem inappropriate to me. It felt like I was a princess when I wore that white slip, and I liked this boy, and I was in 3rd grade, and my mom would say, "Go change out of that, that's not appropriate." But I was seeing myself as something else, And when we'd go to the beach and the sand was white, we'd get our legs wet and then put the white sand on our legs because that was like grown-up lady stockings. And I loved Little House on the Prairie, and Mary Ingalls had blue eyes, blonde hair, and I wanted blue eyes really badly. And not because I thought she looked so pretty, though that was true, but I was sure that the world must look different through blue eyes. And there was a way she had after she was blind. Do you remember this? Did you watch Little House on the Prairie? After she was blind, she had a certain way of staring. And I don't know, I was so enchanted by it. I thought I would pretend that I had her blind blue eyes, but that I could somehow still see, and everything felt different. The list goes on. I also would take the top off of spray bottles and take extra papers and stamp them like an office lady who had an important job. And just hours go by like this. Somebody very close to me was telling me that he never played pretend when he was a child because he knew it wasn't real. I was like, what's the point? He also stopped crying the day his parents got divorced, and he realized that tears didn't change anything, so what's the point? He's highly pragmatic, and that has its strengths too. But when I heard him say that, I started to question my childhood experiences and go, was that pointless? What was that all about? And then, I was imaginative as a kid. I'm still imaginative. Is it escapism? I don't want to be someone who denies reality and is pretending the world is something it's not. But the more I've thought about it, and the more reading I've done, I've come to believe that I wasn't, although I do have a tendency, I have erred in that side of escapism at times in my life, but I think there's more to it than that in there. I think there's a goodness and a beauty and a practical value. And so that's to imagination, and that's what I want us to talk about. First of all, I'd like to clarify something I've been pondering, which is that I think there's a difference too. He said, I didn't play pretend because I knew it wasn't real. And I think there's a difference in the connotation of the word pretend and imagine. Because I think pretend is participating in something, acting as if it's actual when you know it is not actual. And there's imagination involved in pretend, but I think imagination isn't only pretend or always pretend. I think when we imagine, we're seeing deeply. It's deep seeing. And it's what you're imagining might be actual, it's just not proven or tested yet. It may have been actual in a time and a space that is not your time and space. It may be something that's yet to come, the far side of the mountain. It may have been the distant past. When I sing for somebody, I can imagine what they are thinking about me or about the song. I can imagine what it was like to live in 1850 with no central air conditioning. I can imagine, where's Joel, what the possible outcome of not wearing a motorcycle helmet might be. Good science starts with imagination. Faith, hope, and love. As Matthew said, these things are really reliant on our ability to imagine things we cannot see. So I'm thinking of imagination as a deeper way of seeing. And I want to make it clear what has already been said this weekend, that it is not for professional artists alone to live imaginatively. I believe it's for absolutely 100% everybody. Everybody was born with the capacity to imagine, and that it's actually the only way to be fully human is to exercise that. Do you see yourself as an artist, whether you get paid for it or not? Raise your hand if you do something that doesn't allow you to, or you don't believe you are able to exercise creativity a great deal in your full-time work. I have one child who cannot look at anything without seeing something else. Like, he looks up at the sky instantly, oh my gosh, look at the dragon, that looks like a fire engine, that looks like, he's always seeing something else. I have another kid who is pretty bad in school, but he can take apart an engine, put it back together. He just intuitively gets those kinds of patterns, and he sees the way things work. I have a rising 7th grader who, if she sees an animal hurting or a person hurting, she can't not imagine that feeling and internalize it so much that she's just in tears. I have people in my life who are business leaders, and they are imagining new ways of doing business. Imagination, though, here in this context, we want to talk about a holy imagination and what that is, because I think this is key for us. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys have better definitions, or some of you have given this some thought. I'm thinking it's pretty simple. It's seeing deeply from a heart that's rooted in love of God and love of humans. Love God, love your neighbor. I think that's a great way to test where our imagination is taking us, is whether it's coming from a desire to love God and love our neighbors, and if it's actually accomplishing that. Madeleine L'Engle said, "It is through the world of the imagination, which takes us beyond the restrictions of provable fact, that we touch the hem of truth." It's through the world of the imagination, which takes us beyond the restrictions of provable fact, that we touch the hem of truth. She wrote that in Circle of Quiet, but in Walking on Water, she's a fiction writer, or was a fiction writer, and so she talks about the idea of, is it not true because it's fiction? You could say the same thing about Jesus' parables. Were they not true because they weren't factual? And so now I look back on those early imaginings, and I think that was just a child exercising holy imagination, practicing her understanding of what is true in this world, what is not only real, but it is what is most real, what is most eternal. And I can look back to some of those specific examples, like wanting to be magic and pretending I had magical powers. Or I see my little boy, after he watched that movie, is the kids like Avatar one, where the boy is holding back the ocean, or he can hold back the last Airbender, yeah. Don't we somehow know, as children of God, that we are connected to power? We are connected to supernatural power, and that we are meant to tap into that. And we are made in the image of someone who can defy gravity and defy everything else, and that we are co-creators with him. And when I was looking through the eyes of Mary Ingalls, her beautiful blue eyes, there's truth in that. You do see differently through different eyes. And there are different ways to look at the world. And when I made my lady stockings or wore my white slip or whatever, imagined myself more lovely or more grown up or more wise, that's because I am meant to be more lovely and more wise, and I am a princess, and I am meant to be beautiful. And when I'm stamping papers like an important business lady, I mean, work feels good. You know, there is truth in that. We are meant to work and accomplish things and serve others. And when my siblings and I are just, trying to paint pictures in each other's minds, or we would do sketch artists, like I'm going to describe the man who stole my purse, and you draw it down. We are meant to be relational, and we are capable of transmitting ideas from one mind to another mind, or heart to another heart. And I can understand you if I listen well, or if I look more deeply. But imagining is not necessarily pretending. The work of imagination is dealing with very real things. Imagination is seeing more deeply, and when that's anchored in love for God and love for others, it's good for all of us. And it's for everyone. And furthermore, it is exactly what Jesus Christ was all about, was seeing people and seeing the world deeply and more truly than it sees itself, or than we see ourselves. If you just focus on just his interactions with people, he doesn't seem to have ever been in a hurry. He took the time to see them and to see beyond what they knew of themselves. So if they said, "What do I have to do to get into heaven?" He's like, "Well, let me tell you something about you, what I see." And that's what we want to be about. So it's really just continuing on Matthew's talk from this morning. This is just about seeing. It's about learning to see. In our culture today, this is a positive thing. I think creativity is becoming more embraced, and it's more popular to be, I think, when I look at young people, it seems to be more accepted to be artsy than it was when I was in high school. And the arts camp that I work at in the summer is really born out of that, seeing that there are a lot of kids who are in the community of faith, and their parents don't know what to do with them because they're so artistic, and they can find a camp for football but not for arts. So, but I think that's getting better. And I was reading that in 2010, this big poll of CEOs showed that creativity was the number one most important factor in being a good leader, was being a creative individual. And yet, when they actually do studies and test that by introducing creative ideas to people, it's resisting. We want to support creativity, and we really want to be known as being creative people, and we really all want to be perceived as being open-minded, but in reality, it's a lot harder to live that out. And the same is true in the church. In the church, we sing about a creator God all the time, sing about God making all things new. But the church might be the hardest place to bring a new idea or a new practice into, and to have it welcomed, maybe. I, as a songwriter, participate in an industry that is not known for being a leader as much as it's known for being a follower. And since we, as believers, I don't know if everyone in here is a follower of Christ, but coming from that worldview, we believe in an invisible God. We are staking our lives on following somebody we cannot see, reading from ancient texts that require a lot of imagination to even get through. We are staking our hope on the possibility that there's this kingdom coming, and that this kingdom is here, but it's also there, and we can't see it. It's like already, but not yet. And yet we are afraid to be really creative and imaginative, but it's all requiring our imagination. So knowing that, I would think that things that come out of the church and out of the creative people of faith would be like the most imaginative, breathtaking works that there are on the planet. And unfortunately, that's not always true. And so I would like us to consider why that's not always true. Given that Christianity assumes there's this great journey and this destination on the other side, that there's always more coming. What are some of the things that keep us from living imaginatively, from going against the grain of culture or suggesting a new way? What are those things?
We'll pick up next week with the second half of this talk, part 2. And in the meantime, visit matthewclark.net/1000 words to hear Christa's music and get some links to her stuff online. And register for Cofferstowe 2019 at cofferstowe.com. I really hope you'll join us. It's going to be a really wonderful weekend. I'm very excited about that. So until next week, thanks for listening.